Welcome back to Bible study, Book of Genesis, chapter 39, Joseph in Egypt. Let's go. Genesis 39:1. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him out bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. What's really happening? Joseph is taken to Egypt after being sold by the Ishmaelites. He is bought by Pa- Potiphar, an important official who works under Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt. Even though Joseph has been moved far from his home, the story shows he is now entering a new place where God's plan will continue. Genesis 39:2. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. Even though Joseph is a servant in a foreign land, God has not left him. The Lord blesses everything Joseph does, so he succeeds even in difficult circumstances. This verse reminds us that God's presence is not limited by where we are or what situation we are in. Genesis 39:3. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. What's really happening? Potiphar notices that Joseph is different from his other servants. He sees that the Lord is blessing everything Joseph does, and his work always turns out well. God's work in Joseph's life becomes so clear that even someone who does not worship the Lord can see it. That's what we all want to be, right? Genesis 39:4. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had he put into his hand. Potiphar trusts Joseph because he has proven himself faithful and dependable. He puts Joseph in charge of his entire household and everything he owns. God's blessing opens the door for Joseph to receive greater responsibility, even though he is still a servant. Genesis 39:5. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer in his house and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. What's really happening after Joseph is put in charge? God blesses everything that belongs to Potiphar. Potiphar. The blessing isn't just on Joseph, it spreads to the entire household, even the fields. This shows that God's presence through one faithful person can bring blessings to others around them. So we shouldn't hate these people. Hopefully they don't hate us, right? Because blessing, it's like a vibe, right? We all get a piece of it. Genesis 39:6. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat, and Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. Potiphar trusts Joseph so completely that he lets him manage everything he owns and only concerns himself with his own meals. Joseph has proven to be honest and dependable, earning his master's full confidence. The verse also tells us that Joseph was handsome in appearance, setting the stage for the next challenge he will face. Hmm. Genesis 30, Genesis 39:7. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, "Lie with me." What's really happening? After Joseph faithfully serves in Potiphar's house, a new test begins. Potiphar's wife is attracted to Joseph and directly asks him to sleep with her. This is the first time in the story that Joseph's character is tested. not by suffering, but by temptation. Genesis 39:8. But he refused and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master's wati, not what is with me in the house. And he had committed all that he had to my hand. Joseph refuses Potiphar's wife because he remembers the trust his master has placed in him. He understands that betraying Potiphar would be wrong because he has been given great responsibility over everything in the house. Joseph chooses to honor what is right even when he has an opportunity to do what is wrong. Genesis 39:9. There is none greater in this house than I. Neither had he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? It's really happening. Joseph explains that Potiphar has trusted him with everything except his wife, because she belongs to his master. But Joseph's biggest reason for refusing is not just loyalty to Potiphar, but it is because he knows this would be a sin against God. Joseph understands that even when no one else sees it, God sees what we choose to do. Genesis 39:10. And it came to pass as she spake to Joseph day by day that he hearkened not unto her to lie by her or to be with her. Potiphar's wife continues to pressure Joseph day after day, but he refuses to give in. Joseph does not even allow himself to stay close to the temptation because he knows the danger it brings. It's like a life lesson right there, right? Whatever we think we can't handle, we probably shouldn't be around. Joseph's faithfulness is not just a one time decision, it is a choice he keeps making every day. Genesis 39:11. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the man of the house there with him. Joseph enters the house to complete his daily work, but this time he is alone with Potiphar's wife. The situation creates an even greater opportunity for temptation because no one else is around. This moment shows that doing what is right is tested most when we think nobody is watching. Genesis 39:12. And she caught him by his garments, saying, Lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled and got him. Potiphar's wife grabs Joseph's clothing and tries to force him to stay. Joseph does not argue or try to fight the temptation. He runs away and leaves his garment behind. Joseph chooses to lose something valuable rather than lose his obedience to God. Genesis 39:13. And it came to pass when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and was fled forth. What's really happening? Poti- Potiphar's wife sees that Joseph has escaped and that his garment is left in her hand. Instead of admitting what really happened, she now has an opportunity to use the garment to create a false story. The same item Joseph left behind while doing what was right will soon be used against him. Genesis 39:14. And she called unto the man of her house and spake unto them, saying, See, he had brought in an Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. Potiphar's wife calls the servants and accuses Joseph of trying to harm her. She changes the truth of what happened and makes Joseph look guilty when he actually ran away from temptation. This shows how quickly a false accusation can spread when someone chooses to protect themselves instead of telling the truth. Genesis 39:15. And it came to pass when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried that he left his garment with me and fled and got him out. Potiphar's wife continues telling her false story and uses Joseph's garment as her evidence. She says Joseph ran away because she screamed, but she leaves out the truth that Joseph ran away because he refused to sin. The same action that showed Joseph's faithfulness is now being used to accuse him. Genesis 39:16. And she laid up his garment by her until his Lord came home. Potiphar's wife keeps Joseph's garment with her while she waits for her husband to return. She plans to use it as proof for her false accusation against Joseph. A simple piece of clothing becomes part of a bigger situation where the truth will be tested. Genesis 39:17, and she spake unto him according to these words, saying, the Hebrew servants which thou hast brought unto us came in unto me to mock me. What's really happening? When Potiphar returns home, his wife repeats her accusation, accusation against Joseph. She describes Joseph as the Hebrew servant and makes it sound like he was the one who did something wrong. She shifts the blame onto Joseph to protect herself instead of admitting the truth. Genesis 39:18, and it came to pass as I lifted up my voice and cried that he left his garment with me and fled out. Potiphar's wife repeats the same story, claiming Joseph attacked her and then ran away. She points to the garment Joseph left behind as it proves he was guilty. The truth is hidden from Potiphar, but God knows exactly what happened. Genesis 39:19, and it came to pass when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, after this manner did the servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. What's really happening when Potiphar hears his wife's accusation against Joseph, he becomes very angry. He believes her story and reacts with anger towards Joseph without knowing the full truth. Joseph's situation changes in a moment, even though he did what was right. Genesis 39:20, and Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. Potiphar sends Joseph to prison because he believes the accusation against him. Joseph goes from being trusted with the household to being a prisoner in a place where the king's prisoners are kept. Even though Joseph is suffering because of a false accusation, God's presence and plan had not changed. Genesis 39:21, but the Lord was with Joseph and shewed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. Joseph is now in prison, but the Lord has not abandoned him. God shows Joseph kindness by giving him favor with the prison keeper, just as he did in Potiphar's house. Even in a difficult place, God's still working behind the scenes in Joseph's life. Genesis 39:22, and the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison, and whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. What's really happening? The prison keeper sees that Joseph can be trusted and puts him in charge of the other prisoners. Okay. Even in prison, Joseph continues to serve faithfully and is given responsibility. His circumstances have changed, but his character has not. God is still preparing Joseph for what comes next. Genesis 39:23, the keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him, and that which he did, the Lord made it to prosper. I think it's what's really happening in Genesis 39. The prison keeper trusts Joseph so much that he no longer worries about the things placed in Joseph's care. The reason Joseph continues to succeed is not because of luck or his own strength, but because the Lord is with him. Even in a place of suffering, God is still working through Joseph's. And yeah, that's it. Genesis 39 comes to an end. Um, Until the next Bible study, YouTube. Bye bye.